Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and I'm super excited to do this track keynote with you all today. For those who are attending live, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend. And hopefully you and I can have some fun actually going around the Power Platform world in 15 minutes. So before we dive in, just a little bit about me. I come from an infrastructure background, and I tell people that for a very specific reason, is that I was not a developer. And therefore, if someone like me can get familiar with the Power Platform, I have every confidence that you can do the same over there. And I always look at the entire Power Platform service from a holistic approach. Therefore, I look at the Power Platform. And I'm so blessed that I was actually able to work with this since the previews. So this is going all the way back to prior to 2016 over there. And therefore, I've hit all 4 of those platforms over there, including one of the personal things that I have interested in is the AI and machine learning. In addition, that's my Twitter handle, it's dchristian19, and I am a huge YouTube blogger over there. So if you just go to YouTube and you search for Daniel Christian Powerapps, that's what you'll see. You can look at my channel. I've got pretty much 3 videos coming out every month. Subscribe to it, and hopefully this will help you. Now, before I jump in, there's a massive thanks to our sponsors, because none of this happens without our sponsors. I don't get the opportunity to share my knowledge. You don't get the opportunity to learn. All thanks to these sponsors is why we're able to move forward. And in addition to that, there's also donations that are happening. So I'll stay over here for a few seconds. You can either go ahead and take a screenshot so you have the QR code, or you can also use the bit.ly URL. But if possible, go ahead and make a donation because it's for a good cause. In addition, help us improve our conference. And help me improve my speaking as well. So again, if you can take a scan on the QR code or take a screenshot so you have that URL, this will help everybody over there. But before we jump in, I do want to take a time to look at this video by our sponsors.
I'm Nate Lesnowski, Concurrency's Chief Technology Officer. Concurrency is an organization of change agents. We make a difference, and we partner with businesses on the change that they need right now. Concurrency engages IT operations to build an efficient, capable cloud for the business. It also partners with the business in disruptive change to bring about new revenue and to bring about operational savings. We partner with businesses like Brunswick Corporation on a connected boat platform and migrating them to the cloud. We also partner with businesses like Clover Imaging that are doing AI-enabled distributed warehouses. We partner with businesses like Duff & Phelps that need to engage their customers with modern app platforms. And also engage customers like Rockwell Automation that are doing secure modern workplaces. Concurrency partners with organizations that need change agents and have change agents. We're here to help bring about change that drives new revenue and operational savings in your business. Let's work with each other today.
Awesome. Special thanks once again to Concurrency for being our sponsors. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the Power Platform world. And we're going to try to go around this world in the next 40 minutes or so. So one of the beauties about the Power Platform is the whole concept of its vision. And that to me is so important because the vision of Power Platform really helps in the day and time we live in. Because one of the things happen over here is that there's constant increase in data. And that's the key thing. There's a constant increase in data, and we need either the tools or the systems to help that data flow. And the Power Platform and all its tools available actually help us do that. It's because one of the ways we can do is we can harness the data. We can go ahead and either harness it using apps. Then we can flow the data. We can use Power Automate for that. We can display the data using Power BI. And then we can have a chatbot system, which is able to have a conversation with you and I using all those tools in the backend, which is either using the data from the CDS side or leveraging Power Automate to go ahead and get the data. Key thing is that we have all these tools and functionalities over here. But there's another little addition to that. And the addition is the way this is exploding, the requirement to do all of this is very explosive. But there is not enough developers available to do all of this. There's not even enough data scientists to do all of this. So there needs to be this powerful engine in the back end to go ahead and do all these functionalities. And the Power Platform is the answer to that question. It is able to go ahead and give everyday people like you and I, IT professionals, people who are just good with Excel spreadsheets, or those people who just have the passion that, hey, this is the need that I see in the society, and this is what I need to do. Power Platform helps them take it to the next level over there. So one of the things that I really like is the concept of the triple A loop. The triple A basically says that I can go ahead and act by building an app. I can go ahead and analyze using the Power BI over there, and I can automate using the Power Automate flows over there. So that triple A loop is very important because that, in what I just said, takes you to go ahead and surround all that information over there using those central databases that you're using and really help integrate the code platform on that. Now, one of the neat things that I always love about that is the momentum of this. I mean, just look at the statistics over there that have been there. The number of users, active developers, low code or no code developers, be mindful of that, is over 3 million. And just look at the statistics of how much the Power Apps of the Power Platform has grown in the past 1 year itself. 700%. I mean, that is unbelievable. And then the Power Automate runs in each day. And I always try to point out, I said, hey, look at this. It's 25 billion, but that's not a month or a week. It's per day. I mean, that's phenomenal. And then also the growth of it from a Fortune 500 standpoint is 97%. So these statistics are really mind-boggling, and they should answer your questions because numbers don't lie, and they answer that this is a tried and tested method. It's been there for over 4 years now, and it's actually growing. Now, in addition, it is now in its 5th year, and this triple-digit usage growth is phenomenal. And in addition to just the Power Platform, there is also other flexibilities and services that have been leveraged. I mean, we've got a lot of connectors over there, but Azure is also offered in there. And now Azure as the backend foundation is actually there across 54 regions over there. And again, like I mentioned before, there has been a surplus growth on that in 95%. But don't just take Microsoft's word for that. I mean, look at Gartner. And I always bring this up because in the past 1 year, if you always look at the 4 quadrants, look at the one on the top right where it says leaders. There were 4 really powerful services available over there. Salesforce was one of them. Mendex was another one of them. And sure, Microsoft was in that group over there. But this was a year ago. Now, Gartner has actually come out and said officially in the year 2020 that top on the lead is Microsoft. And it falls in that quadrant of everything from leaders, challengers, visionaries. It kind of falls in that quadrant. And behind it is Tableau. Now, I always want to take a minute and talk about, because I was a huge fan of Tableau. I used to use a lot of SQL Server reporting services. But when I got my hands on Tableau, I was very impressed. But one of the things that concerned me about Tableau was the licensing cost. And its a platform was fantastic. But when I saw Power BI, I was able to actually jump into it and start using that at a much lower cost available. Anyway, I just digressed over there. My point being is that if you don't take Microsoft's word for those statistics, and you say that, yeah, I got to take it with a grain of salt, fine. But look at what Gartner has to say on that. So before we jump in and look at some of these new services and walk around the planet, one of the things I'd like to do is actually go down the history of this thing. So let's, join me. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the actual track. So back in the day, in 2015, so I'm actually going back over 5 years now, one of the first brothers of the Power Platform, or the members of the Power Platform, was actually Power BI. And if you've heard me speak before, you'll always hear me say that Power BI was actually one of the big brothers. It was the first service that came out, and it's basically a place where things have been tried and tested. But not too far behind was actually the Power Automate and the Power Apps. Now, keep this in mind that I'm putting these numbers not when they've been GA or generally available. This is when they even came out in preview, because they put themselves on the map that, hey, this is coming out. So if you're considering that, hey, those dates don't actually line up with what I have in mind, that's because I'm going before. This is when they're in the preview. So when all these 3 were there, the next one that came out was Power Virtual Agents that came out in 2019. So this has actually been the history and the roadmap of all these 4 members of the family. And I always like to, reminisce about this, is because to tell you one thing is that this has been there. This entire service is now in its 5th year. It is a tried, it is a tested, and it is now a very established service system. And again, emphasis on the low-code platform that spans across the entire Azure, Microsoft 365, and Dynamics 365, or just standalone applications. So now I want to step back and start looking at each of them one at a time. Now, like I already show you on the Power BI, Big Brother, the powerful reporting system available over there was available in 2015. And to me, this was a huge game changer, because along with that, it came out with the flexibility to have Power BI Desktop. It had Power BI Mobile over there, and it was giving things such as Tableau and Looker literally a run for its money. That's what it was doing. But the big selling points that are out there is that the Power BI Desktop is 100% free. And think about that. you can actually download a full-blown, and there is no blocks, there is no watermarks on this. It is a full-blown application that you can down, Power BI, and start building reports over there. So even if you don't have zero, zip, nada, no licenses whatsoever, you can download Power BI, you can upload the raw data through an Excel spreadsheet, CSV, whatever, and start building some fantastic visualizations using all of those widgets that are available over there. You can do that right out of the bat. And if that doesn't impress you, look at all the connectors that are available. I mean, they're right off the bat. And just as you know, right off the bat, when Power BI came up, it came up with 50 connectors over there, plus the on-premises gateway over there, functionality to use all those visualizations for local options, and then the availability to use third-party visualizations. But here was actually my big game changer. The on-premises gateway that came out, specifically the third iteration or the third version of on-premises gateway came out, it had high availability available. What that means is that if you have got your on-premises gateway installed in a data center, if one gateway server, for whatever reason went down, because of the HA functionality over there, you could have other servers also that run the gateway, and the connection will always be active. So you're not going to have any problem of connections going down, losing data functionality, and any of that. It's there, it's available, and therefore my personal favorite was the third version of the on-premises gateway because it had the HA functionality. And then finally, on the DAX side, DAX stands for Data Analysis Expressions, and that is a huge game changer as far as making formulas and taking your visualizations to the next level, because at the end of the day, you are bound by what the data is there. But you can, if you've got the data and if you're missing a certain type of columns, or you're saying, oh man, I wish I could take this date and this timestamp and go ahead and break it down into quadrants or things like that, DAX will do that for you. And the beauty thing about DAX is some of its formula, syntax, and style is very synonymous with what you're already doing on Excel, Power Queries over there, and things like that. So the adoption of the Power BI, specifically the DAX, is actually very similar, and it's very fluid to go ahead and do that. So I want to take a minute over here and actually show you two really interesting demos on that. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to show you the Power BI reports that I have. So here is my Power BI. I'm viewing it from the desktop. And if some of you have noticed this, like, hey, Daniel, this looks a lot like the ones we do in Dashboard in the Day, also called as Diet. And if you've seen that, fantastic, which means you're already familiar with it. For those who haven't, I highly, highly recommend you go through the workshop called Diet or Dashboard in a Day. It literally takes one day. Now you even have the flexibility to go ahead and download it because it's a self-paced training content. And by the end, you will actually be able to build a successful dashboard using this type of visualizations. It already comes with the data, but just look at the fluency of how this works. Each of these are visualizations. If I go ahead and click on one of them, it automatically goes ahead and fills out all the other visualizations. I mean, just the flexibility and the way it presents itself for your eyes to just view at it, for your brain to comprehend it, is just phenomenal. But this is on the easier side. You can actually go ahead and really elaborate on these type of heavy, heavy reports, which are not just reports, but they're actually storytellers. They tell you a story. And again, for some of you, you may already say, hey, Daniel, hey, this looks a lot familiar. And you're right, because this is the dashboard that we see for Center of Excellence. It's a powerful tool that Microsoft has collaborated with other people to build a Center of Excellence, or COE, to build this toolkit to show you how all your Power Platforms, such as Power Apps, Power Virtual Agents, flows, how your connectors, all of them are running. So just look at the flexibility and the powerfulness over here. I've got filters available, but over here I've got a table based on what I select in this table over here. Everything else get automatically propagated. I'm even able to see maps using Bing Maps over here. I can go ahead and now see, okay, how are all the apps functionality going on? Well, there's been a good growth on the apps over here. Apps from the different departments. These are the most active ones. Same thing about, which are the top environments that are being used. Now, obviously, I'm only showing this from the Power BI, standpoint for the Power Platform environments. But think of what all you can do over there, because you will have access to the exact same report building tools, but with your data. And your data can have different type of connectors and everything. And you can actually take it to a whole different level thanks to this tool. And then remember, right now, I've got zero license to do this. I'm only doing it directly for myself on my Power BI side. But the moment you start going in and sharing it, yeah, you have to have some licenses. But look at the beauty and the functionality that is available right off the bat. All right, so let's go ahead and switch gears back again. And I want to jump into our demo, the conversation I was talking on. And I want to now focus on some of the new visualizations that are coming out and the new features, because remember, Ignite has finished which means some new things are coming up over here. So the big ones that I want to focus are definitely on the new viewage functionality called new lineage viewage over there, automation of machine learning, which is going to be coming out in GA. But one of the things which has caught a lot of people's attention is the large modules for public preview. What that means is that you can actually go ahead and build some data models for going ahead and sharing it on the public side, which could be also internal, but its limitation was only 10 gig. I mean, I could go ahead and do a lot of data modeling, but it was limited to 10 gig. Well, they have said that, okay, not only did they just grow it 10 times or whatever, they grew it to 40 times, which means now you can do up to 400 gigs of data modeling over there. And that's huge. In addition to that, they are weaving into the organization new capabilities and specific highlights, which I always like to talk about, is obviously Teams integration, because everything is about Teams these days, but announcing data protection. And the data protection, which means has to do with security and compliance, goes above and beyond just row level security and things. The concept of labeling, which means if you are under a security group and you have labels assigned to your security group by saying, hey, people in this group can only see this data, well, that's now coming into Power BI, which means it's making the security of Power BI even more tight. And those are some of the new highlights that are coming out. Well, that was about Power BI. So let's go ahead and now switch gears and talk about Power Apps and Power Automate. So in the Power Apps and Power Automate side, some of the neat things that I want to talk about again, that is focusing on the history side of it. So in the history side, I will never forget the day when back in 2016, there was a guy named Darshan Desai. I've had great communications with him, and he just posted this out there. And this is what it caught my attention. That it said that, hey, there's something called Power Apps coming up, and if you notice the spelling over there, it still has the power and the apps together. I find that hilarious because of the name change. Anyway, whatever. It was 4 years ago, and said that, hey, something new is going to come out. It has been in private preview, and then I was going to be in public preview. So that definitely sparked my interest. So I went ahead and went in there, started playing around with it, and sure, at that time in the public preview, there was a lot of bugs over there. But one of the things that I was able to do was I was able to go ahead and give lots of feedback. That's what helped me have a good relationship with them. But here's something else. So this was a huge game changer for me, because if you realize, right before this, there was also an announcement made of InfoPad Designer going away. And then shortly after that was about the Sharepoint designer workflows. So right after that announcement, when this came in, that now Sharepoint welcomes Power Apps and Microsoft Flow, this is what caught my attention. And I said, okay, I am all in now. I'm going to invest basically all my extra time that I have. And I'm going to start doing this migration from InfoPad Designer to from your InfoPad Designer to the Power Apps. And I started doing testings to see that, hey, if I would take a simple InfoPad Designer form and move it over to Sharepoint or Power Apps, can it do it? In addition, I was able to go and say, okay, this is a pretty complex InfoPad Designer form for SharePoint lists. Can I migrate that over and rebuild it in Power Apps over there? And to my surprise, I was able to replicate it one-to-one, but I was also able to take it to the next level, which is start building apps and mobile apps, which is something I just could not do with InfoPad Designer. So I want to kind of call this out because this to me was a huge game changer over there. So when it now comes in, I was talking from a SharePoint standpoint. Now when I talk to the entire Power Platform community out there, I personally have seen the use of Power Platform break it down into these three cases. Now, on the two extremes are the M365 people, mostly SharePoint. And on the other one is the Dynamics 365 people. Two very extreme people. But there's also people in between. They say, Daniel, all I need is an app with a few workflows in it. And that's all I need. I don't care where the data is being stored. I just want to make sure that I have all the licenses for it, and I can go ahead and run for that. Speaking of licenses, there is no simple formula for that. I mean, I've put the simple formula in quotes over there, but literally there is no simple formula for that. Therefore, the best I always talk about is those three categories. But this is how I've always described it, is that if you are on one extreme, which is the SharePoint online people, 9 out of 10 times your M365 or Microsoft 365, whether it be a business license or an enterprise license, that will suffice. If you're on the other side, if you're a Dynamics 365, that's like an Uber level access of licenses. Those people are usually safe in whatever situation and circumstances. But if you're again in those in between over there, then yes, you will need to have at least a Power Apps plan 1 or a plan 2. Now it is per app based or user based. And I would recommend that if you are on the admin side, then you need to at least have a per user based license, not just an app side. Now, the key thing which always grabs you are the connectors. And right now, there's over 400 different types of connectors over there. But let's talk about that, because what happens in connectors is it all boils down to two different kinds. There's standard and premium. And granted that, and some people say, well, I've built a custom connector. Where does that fall into? Well, that falls into the premium category. But here's how things get a little confusing. Watch this. What I have over here is an Azure AD connector, and it's standard, which means your M365 license will go ahead and, this connector will come with your M365 license over there. But there's limitations. I mean, I've been very successful with using that connector to go ahead and create a new account, go ahead and add some attributes to it. Attributes means first name, last name, manager, and an email address. But when you start adding more and more attributes, plus Azure AD gives you the functionality to add custom attributes, you don't have that functionality available. And for that, you've got to go in using the HTTP with Azure AD. But guess what? It's a premium connector. So that's where people get a little confused as to, okay, how are these licenses working out and how this is? It's down to these connectors. I'll give you another example. In another example, there's Sharepoint. Sharepoint Online, standard connector, comes with your, it'll be fully functional with your M365 license over there. But some people say, well, I've got a hybrid. I've got Sharepoint Online and I've got Sharepoint On-Prem. If it is on-prem, you got to use the gateway, which means it'll be a premium connector. So that's usually what it's always been, is this combination of the licenses and where you use it. Is that it's not really the Power Apps usage as far as building the app or building the flow. It boils down to the connectors. So just do your homework as to what your plan is going to be. But when it comes to planning, here is the new way that I have seen, and it works really well, especially for those mid-sized to large companies. And the concept of, well, how do I govern these apps? Because there's been an explosion of it. Remember, it's completely low code or no code. So I really like the way that this was presented at Ignite over there, is that when a new app is created, go ahead and immediately notify the app makers that, hey, an email, we know that you're an app maker over there. Let's just go ahead and register it, or in your company might be certified it. And if you don't certify it by a certain time, then I can go ahead, it'll have to be disabled. Basically come with a good governance and an administration process, because then what happens is, and this is quite common, and I've seen this again and again, is that apps that were built by a maker for just his or her department, that could be anywhere from 3 people to 15 people, were so useful, so powerful that it catches some of the senior people's attention in the company and it goes up to the enterprise level. And you need a process to do that, because I love the way this code was put in over there, that sometimes it was started for a citizen development for a very small reason, but it can easily evolve to something that the whole company is doing. So if you're a Power Platform admin who's listening to this, keep this in mind, that there is ways to go ahead and evolve from an existing simple app maker for onesie, twosie users right up to the enterprise level. So what I want to do is because we talked about the apps and the governance, I want to switch gears and actually talk about some of the new features that were announced in Ignite. This was actually something that caught my attention, because I love the fact that Microsoft is now paying attention that, hey, Power Platform is being used not just by small businesses or small departments, but it is growing and being picked up by large enterprise companies, which means governance has to be a very strong focus over there. So they are adding more and more features, right down to the enhancement of the data loss prevention. Tenant isolation, which you see on the bottom right, is fantastic, because they are saying that if I have connectors available, that connector should only be used for all the services inside my tenant, and I should not have the flexibility where there is a rogue user or whatever is copying stuff from inside my company over to the other company. That is going to be blocked. In the same way, there is also email exfiltration blocking, which is available over there, just to make sure that, hey, any SMTP emails with SMTP headers sent from the Power Platforms, they should be included over there, but it's also filtering right down to the email level. Other thing is user access diagnostics. They've gone ahead and actually put in admin level functionalities to see, okay, where is this app running? What was the functionality of the app at that time, performance, why was it having issues at that specific time and stamp over there. Analytics, you can do it at your own app and at your own terms over there, because now you can take your own data and you can put it in your data query or a data lake using Power Query, and you will start having access to that. And then finally, you can get much higher level reports over there, reports at the tenant level, right, for your business impacts and things like that. So I really like how they're going ahead with these new functionalities from the governance standpoints. But let's switch over and talk about Powerapps Portal. I mean, Powerapps Portal has been something which has been growing. So many enhancements have come from the design standpoint over there. In fact, Powerapps Portal was the first place they were able to make it completely mobile. So they're going ahead and adding more functionalities over there. The new portal checker rule, which is on the bottom left, is definitely something that has caught my attention over there. But then the other one, which is on the bottom right, is the enhancing of the mobile device, mobile flexibility for use to make more liquid rendering, which is making it much more mobile over there. And then there is more and more highlights that I'd like to talk about. Key things I want to talk about is the Powerapps testing of the frameworks over there, and then also the native supports of images and files across all app types. So that was very interesting, was very exciting on the Power App side. But now let's not just stop over here. Let's go and take a look on the Power Automate side. So the Power Automate, which its original term was Flow, which you might still hear me say that, is has been the same side-by-side companion when it came to Power Apps. In fact, the two siblings came out at the same time, Power Apps and Power Automate. And for SharePoint people, this is going to be the successor for your SharePoint Designer 2010, 2013 workflows. Now, a couple of new features and functionalities that are coming out, huge is the robotic process automation, or RPA. And that gives you the flexibility, is specifically when it comes to the recording of the steps. That is amazing for way Microsoft has thought about some of the legacy applications, and legacy applications that have got no connectors, no way to talk to its own proprietary backend database, no API connections whatsoever. But they have still said that, okay, we will help them as well. Here's what we're going to do. We will allow you to record the steps of all the clicks and everything that you're doing, and we'll make a workflow out of it. That's the whole process of robotic automation over there. And they've actually made it to a point that you can make it completely automated, or you can make it with some human interface involved over there. And that's the beauty of robotic automation processes. And there may be some sessions on that. I highly recommend you go ahead and start attending some of those. And then there's more and more capabilities and highlights that are coming out over there. I definitely talked about the checker, which was there, the way to check your apps. The same in Power Apps. The same thing is happening on the Power Automate side for Flow over here as well. And then the intelligence of the flow, which is going to be having more and more AI and machine learning connectors and directly actions and filters available directly in Power Automate, is also coming out over there. Big improvement on authoring improvements. That's something that you want to keep an eye on from a permission standpoint. So all said and done, there's a huge improvement on the Power Automation side. And it's something that I would highly recommend. Even simple things like copy and paste is coming in over there. The logics to put in conditions is getting easier. More and more improvements and enhancements as we get using it more and more. But remember, now we've already talked about Power BI, we've talked about Power Apps and Power Automate. Now, Power Virtual Agents sits on top of it, because Power Virtual Agents, even though it is the youngest member of the Power Platform family, it is able to do everything it is able to do, all because of Power Apps over here, all because of its members of its family. So a couple of new things that they're talking about, which is coming out over here, is in addition to the chatbotting, which is available out of the box, it is giving you the flexibility to leverage more and more APIs over there and easily extend your bots to other frameworks on that side. So let's actually take a look at some of those things. Power Virtual Agents, gives you the process to go ahead and embed your bots everywhere over there, but it also gives you the flexibility to go ahead and improve your bots over the time, because you're constantly using it, and to integrate your backend bots over there to more automated actions. And I'll actually show you some demos on that. Speaking of demos, let me just give you a break, because you've been listening to me a lot. So I'm going to jump in and now just quickly talk about, just show you two demos on the Power Apps and the Power Automate side. So on the Power Apps, I want to come in over here and I want to show you two simple types of Power Apps. So one of them is a Power App, and this is actually one of my favorites, which I'd even shown at an Ignite. So I'm going to come over here and say, hey, Reza Durrani is actually putting in an order, and now based on the order, it comes in, and now Reza says, okay, he's going to order a hamburger. So he just clicks over here, and in the hamburger, there's choices you can make. You can go ahead and say, hey, I just want a regular bread. I can go ahead and, it just flows dynamically. If you go ahead and pick ground beef, the ground beef flies through over here using all the X and the Y controls. I can use lettuce, I can use tomatoes, I can change the cheese, I can go ahead and actually change the bread to something else. Just beautiful functionality, user-friendly, user-easy. I can go ahead and pick and choose all the other drinks or sides that I want. And then finally, it goes ahead and gives me an overview of what I want and tells me the total cost over there. Now, this is on the Power Apps on the tablet side, but what about SharePoint? So on the SharePoint, remember, Power Apps or customized form is the replacement for InfoPad Designer, and the same functionality is available over here. Here's the SharePoint list with some pretty complex columns. In fact, these over here are all lookups. Some of them are managed metadatas. So when I come in over here, this is a full-blown customized form built on top of the Power Apps Studio, and I can go ahead and put in all the information that I want, similar to the cities. That's actually coming from a lookup over here. Same thing on the states. Manage metadata types. All of this information is all available. And when I just go ahead and click on save, it shows up over here. And I can actually just use the same type of form to click on it, and even shows me an overview of that form. So very similar and powerful type of tools and replacements for InfoPad Designer. Same thing can be used for customized forms over there. So I want to switch back gears over here, and let's go back into our slide deck and just talk about a few more other things. So the Power BI integration with Power Apps, this was actually one of the things that really got me excited over there, because there was times when I was able to build some fantastic flows, fantastic Power BI reports, but in the report itself, I didn't have the flexibility to add data. All I could do was view the data. And I said, well, I need a way to go ahead and do that. So that is when Power BI integration came up. And in fact, if you'll notice that some of the things I'm going to talk about is the integrations which are there, because 4 other platforms are fantastic, but when you bring them together, it fills in any of these gaps that you might have. Because Power Apps by itself, yeah, it is great, but it has a few blocks over there. It has a few gaps over there. The gaps, one of them is big thing is the BI integration piece over there. And then BI has fantastic integration, but I can go and save data over there. Well, when you get the two together, it works beautifully. So let me show that to you. I'm going to now jump over to my examples over here, and here I'm on Power BI integration. Some of you may have seen this over here. Basically, this is a school teacher who's actually putting in some information about their students. So let's do that. Again, I'm going to go ahead and pick on Reza. It says Reza Dorani. Reza is really good in math. So I'm going to make say that Reza actually scored a 99, and the higher score was say 100 over there. And now when I go and click on submit, yeah, the whole trust but verify, that's just something I do. Click over there and watch. The visualizations go ahead and update automatically. And this is not me running some flow in the back end or anything like that. This is directly the data sources, and there are specific data sources that manage direct query are able to go ahead and do that. Where if I submit it through a Power App, this is a Power App, it updates all the visualizations over there. But let me just not stop over there. Let me just say that, hey, Reza Dorani also took a English class. Let's just say he took a literature class, and in the literature, he actually scored a 98 or 99, and the highest score was also a 99. I'm going to click on submit. Yes, I'll confirm that. And if you watch this over here, that actually visualization automatically and dynamically expanded. That is the beauty of this integration with Power Apps and Power BI, that I can put the data, not just add data. I can come over here and I can go ahead and even delete the data. And then when I go back over here, it filters it. So I can do both adding and deleting, and it automatically updates that over there. So this is the beauty of the Power BI visualization that what I wanted to talk about. So now we talk about Microsoft Teams, and everybody is talking about Microsoft Teams. In fact, there is not a single place that I have not heard Microsoft Teams, and there's a reason for that. The way Microsoft is planning is that Microsoft Teams should be your central place. And in that, you should be able to do pretty much everything else, from seeing your calendar invites to see chats to see group information over there. And Power Apps, actually, the entire Power Platform came into that. So let me actually talk a little bit about the history of that. It was originally the integration of Power Apps was introduced in 2017. So everything that you see right now has actually been there for a while. It's just been supersized now. But this was it. Now, granted, at that time, there was a little bit of work involved. I would actually have to have an app. When I want to go ahead and add it into Teams, it would go ahead and export that as a file. Then I would have to come into Teams and I would have to go ahead and import that. Well, now, thanks to Project Oakdale, I don't have to do any of that. Why? Because it's deeply integrated into it. In fact, right down to the data level, it is deeply integrated into Microsoft Teams. And that is why I really like the way it is said, is that it provides the storage-rich data types right at the enterprise capability over there. So as you can see here, I can go ahead and put in all my tables and everything, which is its back end is the CDS entity over there. But in addition, I can go ahead and build now Power Apps using tables right inside Teams over there. I can go ahead and now even deliver full-blown solutions. And there's actually some pre-built solutions already available. Two of you, I'll just show it to you. But it's making it much more easier, much more flexible. And the key thing is it's all doing it in one location. So with the concept of putting it in one location, there was always a concern. Is that, Daniel, how is the security managed over there? Because it has been a little bit of a challenge to manage security on the Power App side. Not a challenge as in it's not, the feature is not available. The challenge is you need to know the process to go ahead and manage the security. But when the Microsoft and the Power Platform and the Teams people collaborated together, they said that whatever happens, the security needs to be easy. So they went ahead and did it. Okay, for the teams, it aligns with the original core roles that were already in Teams. And we know what that is. In the Teams, when you go ahead and create different teams, it always has an owners, members, and users over there. And the same thing that happens in the Teams, in the Power Platform side too, is anytime you create a new team, if you start building an app over there or CDS, that's when it goes ahead and triggers off an environment in the Power Platform side. And that's how the correlation is said, that the members over there are like the system admins in the Power Platform. The owners are like the owners are the system admins in the Power Platform. Members, depending on what level you give them, they could be the environment makers over there. But that one-to-one association is existing and it's automatic. You don't have to do any work over there. The security groups that are created are directly tied in. It just works. And I'm so glad that they've gone ahead and done that. Because not only did they do it for internal people, they also went ahead and did that for the external people. External people means also the guest level access, which come from the Azure AD side over there. So ultimately, when it comes to Project Oakdale, there's a few things that you do need to know. There's one of the key things is that it is included with no additional cost in your Microsoft Teams. What does that mean? Well, I'm an M365 user and I have a business license or I have an enterprise, say E3 license over there. I'm going to start using Project Oakdale. Do I need to have that Power Apps Maker or user level plan? And the answer there is no. You, with your business or an enterprise license, you can start using Project Oakdale because think about this. Over here, it supports to any team support. It can give up to 1 million records over there. And from the Power Platform in the back end, it automatically gives you 2 gigs of capacity for those environments. Granted, now if you go ahead and run into any of those limitations, you've gone ahead and gone past that 1 million records, or you've gone ahead and gone past that 2 gig of capacity, that's when you need to start talking, thinking about the upgrading the process over there. So kind of keep all that in mind. But the key thing is don't get concerned that you're running into any type of permissions over there. All right. So we talked about the Project Oakdale integration over there, which is basically the deep integration between Microsoft Teams and inside Power Platform. I do want to focus and take a little bit of time to talk on the Power Virtual Agent side, or PVA. Now, PVA, or Power Virtual Agent, is the newest member of the family, and for good reasons. It was announced in 2019 at the Ignite over there, and is the deep integration between the Power Apps and the Power Automate over there. But one of the key things I want to talk about is that why, and how does it work so successfully? And I love the way that this platform graph is set up over there, this pyramid structure, because right at the base of Power Virtual Agents, which is a chatbot system, right at the base of it, it is built on top of Azure Cognitive Services. And Azure Cognitive Services has all these features, which all of them have API connections over there. Now, the bots actually has no cliff, which means it doesn't have to have any, it has a full framework which goes ahead and pulls in all the cognitive services right down to speech, goes ahead and does right down to the machine learning, teaching and testing. All of that connections are directly available over there. But it also has direct access to all 3 of its other family members, which is the Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. And that's why I always say that, yes, Power Apps is the same member, same type of functionality, but it's on the top of the pyramid, because Power Virtual Agents, or PVA, is able to go ahead and leverage all these other features and functionalities that were already available on that. Now, in addition to all of that, there were some announcements that were made. Announcements was that there is the flexibility to have now more and more languages, previews up to 15 of them. In fact, this release of new languages started right around May and June. So in your tenants, you should already start seeing more of them. Because remember, originally there was only English. There is, in addition to more of the data centers, which means now it's expanding to outside the US regions over there. And then the multi-authoring support, because initially all we could do was just go ahead and actually add one app, and then that was it. But now it gives you the flexibility. Only one maker was allowed to go ahead and add or work with the Power Virtual Agent, but now it gives you the multi-author support over there. And then finally, the flexibility to go ahead and export and import chatbots, because that also helps across environments and things like that. But the one sad thing is that right now, what you still cannot do is you cannot go ahead and import any of the images and videos in chatbots. You just really can't do that. So as an overview over there, the integration of the Power Virtual Agents is also coming inside Teams. Because remember, I just showed you on the Power BI side, but it is all directly coming into the Teams as well. And then over here are just some of the examples. And not only can I actually build the chatbot over there, but I can also use it directly inside it. And then Power Virtual Agents is now inside Teams. Now, I do want to take a few minutes and talk about data, because you see me talk about all the visualizations that are available and all the members of the family, but it all boils down to data. And in this case, our data is Common Data Service. And so Common Data Service all boils down to its original API connections across all of these services, and then goes all the way up to the storage. But the one thing that really catches my attention is there is more to CDS behind the eye than what we know, because we only know it as a storage place. But in the back end, there is all of this happening over here. There's all of these services that are Azure services that are being used, but it's also load balanced with all these different web accesses over here. And then when you are hitting it, you're actually hitting all of these accesses over here, but through load balancing. For you, the big takeaway is that it's not just one centralized database. There is a lot more on it. And then again, in the example of the project Oakdale, which I talked about, is that you are given to the same CDS entities over there, you're given 2 gigs of storage per team, which I already talked about. But there's more improvements coming on the CDS side. There's now the flexibility to add more full-size images over there, multiple images, right? And that will be available even on your Canvas and Power Apps site. Data filing on the data types, there will be a lot more flexibility also available, because you can go ahead and now do the strongly typed files. Basically, it's just more of a file type over there. But the relationships between records are going to be much more improved over there. I do want to talk about this common data storage, because here's the main difference. I showed you that example that there is the data storage, and the one on the left was literally what it was before. CDS, and I'll be honest, it was a little bit of a struggle to get some performances on that, especially if you had large storage over there. But when the quote unquote version 2.0 came out, the performance changed overnight. And this is why. On the left, what you see was the data storage, and that was it. It was a one central data storage, Azure SQL. But when they flipped the switch and they went ahead and said, okay, we're going to understand how the data is being used, and we're going to split that up into different things. Basically, the data capacity, file capacity, and the logging. They broke that down into those 3 different categories, and that improved the performance literally overnight. I mean, I myself remember that day when it just came and said that, hey, you got the flexibility to now upgrade to this new tenant. I went ahead and, new database version. I went ahead and did that, and I noticed that upgrade and the performance overnight. So last but definitely not the least, I do want to talk about empowering even developers. Now, I know we call ourselves as the citizen developers. There are some of them that are called as the IT as the pro developers. But true IT developers are also going to have the flexibility to start using Power Apps over there, because we know they are hardcore coding people. So it originally started with the Power Apps components where I was able to go ahead and make something and share that with other people over there. But there was also the concept of components where I don't want to duplicate stuff. If I went ahead and did a combination of controls in Power Apps, I should be able to reuse that again and again. And that's where components came in, because what we were able to do is that you take all this information, you put it in a component together, and then you can share that component across either in your single app, or you can put it in a library, and that library, then you can share that across other apps. So those were actually the 2 types of components that are available over there. Key things you want to know is that when you have a component that you're using from a library, it is still connected to that original component where it was created. So if something was created, it still needs to be go ahead and update that, so that once it's in the library, you always get a fresh copy over there. So things like that, which developers by default already know that something like that has to happen, that's where components come in handy. But the whole Power Platform is designed not just for our everyday developers, they're also for all kinds of developers. And the final and the piece on that is because of it gives you the flexibility to do simplification of the developer work, pro dev experiences, people can jump in as well, and then integrations, and finally on the reliability side over there. Beauty of the integration piece is that you can use it from the citizen developer. You can go ahead and professional developers can together collaborate because a professional developer can put it in connectors, which the citizen developer can do. And then the best-in-class tools and services is something that caught my attention because depending on who the developer is, they can use different types of tools, and all of those tools and services are available in your disposal. So this actually is something that I really like, is it shows you the different layers of how you have the pro developers versus the Power Platform makers and users can use all this flexibility and components. Now, there are some new features coming out over there. The Azure API Management Connector is something that was announced that caught my attention over there. And you can, by the way, use that without no premium connection over there. So remember, API API management connectors without any no premium license required. That was a huge selling point at the Ignite session, I remember. GitHub connectors for a self-service app, that was announced over there. More information on the GitHub Actions for Power Platform was announced over there. And then finally, this is basically how it works, is that the whole Power Platform building tools comes through this ALM, or Application Lifecycle Management, and that entire ALM process is powered by Azure DevOps over there. Now, in the end, I've covered a whole bunch. We went through the entire Power Platform world in a few minutes over there. But I want to end with this note: nothing happens without communities. There are the 4 members of the Power Platform family have 4 strong communities over here. The communities right now, as we stand, has about 140. It's actually gone over 150 super users over there. There are over 200 million participants over there. In addition to people like these who go ahead and help in those communities, there are also the Power Addicts. The Power Addicts hashtag, we rise by lifting others, is such as it has globally grown and it has exploded over there. And I highly recommend that you start working and getting into those monthly meetings that they do over there, because that is what Power Addicts are. We are the same people. We jump in, we'll help each other because we rise by lifting others. And then finally, I want to end with this note, is that all these are the MVPs. At one time, there was a day and time where there were only 5 MVPs, but it has exploded, and it is constantly exploding from across the world, different platforms, whether it be Powerapps, Power Virtual Agents, Power Automate, all of them. And these are just a handful of these MVPs. There's quite a few more who have been nominated, and more are coming up over there. So I want to kind of end over here on this note that thank you for attending it. Hopefully, we were able to touch all these Power Platform components. We went around in a little bit over 50 minutes, showed you some demos over there, but I really gave you an insight of what it was, what it is now, and what are the new features coming over there. So I want to thank you for joining over there, joining on this call. Keep in mind that there are the donations factor available over here. So do your best over there, and also help us improve both our conference and help me improve my sessions. So you can go ahead and put this, fill up, either to go to the bit.ly URL or try to scan this QR code. But once again, thanks for attending, and hope you can enjoy the rest of the conference.